So the question came up a while back with a discussion in a discussion amongst myself and a few of my friends. We were talking about, do you ever wonder what makes like in the GI Joe universe, what makes Cobra an appealing organization for people to join? Like, why are these people so dedicated to a life with Cobra, working for them, being operatives, doing all the quote unquote evil that Cobra does in the GI Joe universe? And one thing that gave a little bit of insight to this is a graphic novel that came out back in, I'm gonna have to get the date here for you, but back in like 2010. And that graphic novel is by Max Brooks, who also wrote World War Z, and it's called Hearts and Minds. And we'll take a look at the back here, but hands down, bar none, absolutely, unequivocally, I think you get the point. The best book I read this week. When I read this, I felt the same. I wanted more. I love bios, I love backgrounds, I love backstories for all of the characters and all the figures. But from Max Brooks, New York Times best-selling author of World War Z, tanks, planes, guns, and bombs are the tools of war, but in order to succeed, you must win over the hearts and minds. Max Brooks, writer of World War Z, brings his gut-wrenching storytelling approach to G.I. Joe, partnered with critically acclaimed artists Howard Chaykin and Antonio Fuso. Brooks cracks open 10 G.I. Joe and Cobra characters, revealing their true hidden nature, their highest highs and lowest lows, and leaves you tensely gripping your chair and confronting your own fears. It's G.I. Joe like you've never experienced before. Taken as a whole, G.I. Joe, Hearts and Minds, is an enthralling glimpse under the scales and skin of 10 of Jodom's longest-lived and most beloved characters. So check it out. That was all in the back. This is a graphic novel. You'll have to excuse my voice a little bit, please. I've been very sick over the last, I've been sick for a month, and I'm just now I've gone through, this is my second round of antibiotics I've been through, and I'm just now kicking this. I've still got a little bit of a cough, and it's just, my throat's having a rough time with it. But all of these pages, I'm going to break this video series down into one video per character that we're going to go through, and I'll put these all in a playlist together so that we're not eating up a shitload of time for single videos. But I'm going to go through and read and talk about the character a little bit for each one of these videos. So on the first page, we have the Hearts and Minds cover, and again, I'm going to show all of these pages in succession at the end of the video. I'll go ahead and read the foreword to the book. It says, "We have no alternative. Call in G.I. Joe." Those words came from the first animated TV commercial to announce the launch of a new line of Marvel comic books. I can't remember how old I was or what was happening in my life, but I remember that commercial, as I did the next one that advertised a new line of action figures. They began with Infantry Trooper, codenamed Grunt, and ended with Commando, codenamed Snake Eyes. I remember the first time I saw those action figures sitting on the display at a friend's house. They seemed to be light years ahead of other 3 3/4 inch action figures from the franchise that shall remain nameless, and we all know that they're talking about Star Wars and their 5 points of articulation, lack of detail, and Star Wars is cool. I'm just not a huge fan. Their detail, their weapons, even their ability to bend at the knees and elbows. This was, of course, before the earth-shattering invention of the Kung Fu grip. Then say, hang on a second. Okay, so this must be older. They say you never forget your first love. Mine was Scarlet. She was beautiful and smart and had small semi-automatic pistol on the inside of her forearm. What more could a man ask? Okay, so what he's talking about with the kung fu grip, those first figures, it wasn't the kung fu grip, it's the swivel arm battle grip that he's talking about in the forward. They also say you never forget your first G.I. Joe comic. Mine was issue number 34, Shakedown, by Sensei Larry Hama. It was the story of a dogfight between Ace and Lady J in a Sky Striker and Wild Weasel and Baroness in a Rattler. It was thrilling and intelligent, and I believe as Eisner-worthy as anything out there. I still keep that worn yellow issue on the shelf next to my desk. I still smile when I reread the last few panels as Ace and Wild Weasel, after trading missiles and gunfire, end their duel by trading mutual salutes. A big thanks to Christos Gage for introducing me to the crew at IDW. Incidentally, this graphic novel, Area 10, will blow you away. And thanks to everyone at IDW, especially Andy Schmidt. Being allowed to write for G.I. Joe is one of those childhood fantasies that can't be rivaled. The initial concept for Hearts and Minds as a series came directly from Andy Schmidt after reading my first writing sample, A Day in the Life of Firefly. He suggested I expand it into a 5-issue, 10-story miniseries. He thought it would be great just to read about some of the characters' backstories and methods and motivation, their hearts and minds. If after reading this you agree, then feel free to direct your praise directly at Andy. My deepest gratitude goes to, of course, my partners in the creative endeavor, Howard Chaykin and Antonio Fuso. To me, comic books will never be a visual medium. Sorry, guys. To me, comic books will always be a visual medium, and comic artists will always be the stars. I'm just the guy that does the scribbling, and incidentally, not all of my scribbling is even my own. The narration part of the Doc story, probably the best writing in the whole project, that's not me. That's the Hippocratic Oath. Howard and Antonio were both masters in their field, and this noob feels especially privileged to share the same cover credits as them. Hearts and Minds was a labor of love, a chance to revisit with some of the heroes of my youth. Hopefully, I've managed to input some of the passion in these pages. GIJoe, and that's Max Brooks, September of 2010. So what we're going to do here, we're going to look through each page of the first story. And most of it's visual. There's not an intense amount of writing to this, but the visuals tell as much of the story as the words. So in this first section, which is about Major Bludd, you have, let me make sure that I'm on the correct page here for you. I was not. So the first section, Major Bludd. And what we have here, we have a bus full of people speeding down a dirt road in what appears to be maybe a South American country. And you have Bludd's hand pushing the button on a detonator, and an explosion going off under the front of the bus. The bus is flipped over. There's people hurt. You've got Bludd standing out by it. And one of the first captions, it says, "I'm not going out like my old man." And see, the thing about it is these little blurbs here and there tell so much of a backstory for the character. I'm not going out like my old man who watched his factory move away. And then you have a picture of, you've got Bludd, and then down here you have his father watching a factory close. Bludd is standing over a woman. He cuts open a bag of coffee, and we see what appears to be probably drugs inside. She's smuggling drugs. He tastes it. He knows what it is. Captions on this page, "I'm not going out like my old man, whose farm was taken away." See the foreclosure. You see Bludd, the similarity between him and his father standing there, and his father watching, the foreclosure sign. And on the next page, more similarities between him and his father. He's on the phone. He says, right. It's all here. Now wire my bloody money." The caption on this one says, "The world is filled with good men." Men who couldn't earn a living anymore. And you have Bludd before he became Major Bludd. You've got a homeless veteran. You've got people with signs saying, we'll work for food. Another caption down here, you have what appears to be Bludd's father and mother with him as a child, with a caption that says, men whose skills had become redundant. Men who watched their manhood die because they couldn't provide. Then on the next page, you have people standing in a soup line. More similarities between Bludd and his father. And this caption says, men without dignity, without purpose, and without hope. So you have guards that are watching over these people that were on the bus, and they're asking each other, what do you want to do with the prisoners? They're asking Bludd what he wants to do with the prisoners. And Bludd says, you mean witnesses? Men don't. They just get tossed aside with the rest of yesterday's rubbish. Not me. I'm not going out like my old man who's waiting to die. And then in that caption, you see a picture of his father presently. I'm not going out like this old man who just couldn't wait. And then you have another photo of someone here hanging themselves. Not his father. Next page, we have Bludd obviously making a decision here. I will always be valued. I will always be needed. And he's telling this girl that he has on her knees in front of him, ready to execute her. Sorry, love, just doing me job. Times change. Men don't. Then he fires, and you see the shell casing coming out of the gun. And another caption that says, I will never be redundant. As he's walking away from the bus full of people that he's killed, the next scene is him walking in the door of his home wearing a pink polo, carrying something here. I don't know what this is. Cigars, flowers for his wife. He looks happy here. His kids are happy to see him. His wife's happy to see him. On this page, you got his son asking, did you bring us any presents? And he's telling his kids, they're in the SUV, pal. And his wife's like, but we don't have and he's just standing here smiling. His scarred face and his eye patch. He leans to the side a little bit, and there's a brand new SUV that he's bought for his family. He says, I will always take care of my family. Then he reaches over and he grabs the hand of his father. And he speaks to him. And his dad acts startled, like he's just completely spaced out and has no idea what's going on. And he says, I brung you something. And he said, I will always provide. And he has a box of Cohiba cigars. And his dad's looking at them. Obviously, his dad smokes cigars, as you can see in earlier panels. And his dad is just, thrilled with this. You can see it, like, there's certain things with the way that these words are written out. And he's grateful that his son brought him something, that he cared, that he thought about him. And he said, I love you too, Dad. And at the end of this, there's another caption that says, my code name is Major Bludd. I am Cobra. This is one of those things that we've seen throughout history, and we even see it presently today. If you've ever, you know that you all know what's going on in the world today with terrorism, terrorist organizations, ISIS, Al Qaeda, Al Shabaab. You have a plethora of people that the civilized world, people like you and me, we view these people as being evil, but we view them as being evil, and we dehumanize them, and we consider them to be monsters. And I think that we really lose touch when we dehumanize a quote-unquote bad guy. These are not monsters. These people are human. They are human just like you and me, and they've made decisions to do these things for a reason that they see. Most of them, and it's not all of them. You know, some of them probably do just want chaos and to kill people and whatnot. But you know, it's people who have a vision of what they see as right, or they have reasons for their family. I know that I read an interview with a former ISIS fighter, and his story was very touching. Yeah, dude, he was an ISIS fighter. Come on, but you know, you may think, you know, what are you talking about? You know, this guy was a monster. He was a terrorist. He was a killer and whatever. But what he was talking about was the fact that the reason he joined was because it was either the situation that he was in. It was either join and fight, or be killed and allow his family to be killed or to starve to death. And that's what a lot of these people are faced with. It's either it's a join us or you're gonna die, and so is your family. So you have to wonder what you would do in a certain situation like that. How would you react to it? So, you know, these people aren't monsters. We see some leaders of the world in the past, and we view them as monsters, and they're not. They're all human. I mean, even when we think about Adolf Hitler did horrible things. But we cannot dehumanize Adolf Hitler. We cannot view him as a monster. We have to view him as a person. We have to. Because these evil things lie within all men. He loved children. He made multiple different charities that took care of children. He loved animals. He was a vegetarian. He was an artist. You know, there were human aspects to this man that people tend to forget. It doesn't take away from the evils that he did, but people forget that even tyrants are human. So that's what we're looking at with Major Bludd in this, and it really drives that point home that even Major Bludd, this evil son of a bitch that kills people for drugs or for money, he's human. He has human emotions. He's not a monster. He has a family that he cares about. And that was one of the things that I really enjoyed whenever I started reading this graphic novel. So up next, I think, is GIJoe's Spirit. We're going to be talking about Spirit, and we'll go through that section of the book as well. So coming up next is the series of photos. You'll see each page in the book. I think I put them on there for like 8 seconds a piece. So this video is not terribly long, but it's packed full of the information. You can pause it, read the pages, check it out. Hope that you guys enjoy this. This is the first time that I've done anything like this. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned for more cool things, more figure reviews, and I may get into doing more of these comics or graphic novels or things like that. Hit me up on Facebook. Hit me up on Instagram. I'll link the Instagram in the comments later, or I'm not sure if I can link it, but I can at least, it's at the GIJoe Den. So hit me up on Instagram and be sure to hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, guys.